This is the Open Global Mind weekly call for Thursday, June 5th, 2025. We are getting closer and closer to the vernal solstice. Is that right? The longest day of the year, which is the day that I get sad because I don't like it when the days all shorten up. So I love the charge out to the longest day. It's always fun for me. Since this is the first Thursday, the first OGM call of June, we are on check-in mode.
Oh.
And oh, interesting, Eric. Cool, thank you. Your interface was on the wrong display. Since this is the first Thursday of the month, we are in check-in mode. All of you are experienced check-in-aholics. So I will mute myself and I will comment in the chat only if someone comes in who doesn't know what's up. Otherwise, please let's not use the chat until we have all checked in once. Hey, Jesse. Yay. Jesse, you're familiar with the check-in protocol, right?
Yes.
Cool, groovy. And Pete is coming in and fading out because his headphones are giving him woes.
The
Better sound now?
Yeah, the last one was actually strange. It was the Zoom and everybody sounded like Mickey Mouse, super high.
Oh, I kind of like that. Just the other day, I took down a helium balloon and inhaled some and it was like squeaking around the house.
That's what it sounded like.
Man, that's weird. Okay. So I'm gonna go quiet.
Could we have a session where we all do helium?
I think that would be awesome. Zoom should have a setting where it just changes everybody's pitch to helium. Like there should be helium mode, and how could you not just have a fucking good time in helium mode?
You already found it. It's available. It's one of the more functions that...
Exactly. Oh, I would love that. Helium mode is a go.
You know, you could just change the settings in the playback, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but actually they're very, very smart about speeding up the playback because they lower your pitch so that you don't sound like Alvin the chipmunk. You actually sound pretty normal, just faster. You keep talking, but they've done a very good job of not having you turn into squeaky chipmunk.
But hearing it on playback, Stacey, is different than hearing us talking to each other as squeaky mice.
The live experience, I think, would
in
be
real
a treat.
time. Yeah.
We could
Someday.
We could develop a Zoom plugin and then sell it.
Yeah, Pete, can't we just ask Claude for Zoom plugin makes everybody sound like they inhaled helium?
Yep.
So how did you finally finance OGM? Well, we had this helium mode Zoom plugin that just went viral, and the rest is history. Then we were able to buy Tesla just a few months later, which will soon be available at fire sale prices.
Then we could buy a really big fungus. Yes,
and have it among us. I like that. Thank you, Gil. You're right on the mission. All right. Enough merriment. This is a serious occasion. We are in check-in mode. Please don't consider this the moment to clear your entire shelf of all the things in your head. Be selective for what's top of mind that's kind of OGM-y. And that way, once we've all checked in, we can go to a regular open discussion. I will now mute myself and the floor will be Rick's.
Actually, if you wouldn't mind me going first, I have to leave at 11:30. I've got another Zoom to go to, but it's on the very theme that you just talked about, actually. As some of you know, I've been writing songs for some time and you playing around with Suno. Suno has an amazing... Anyway, I've been heavily involved in Indivisible, and I've been going to their meetings. I went to a meeting last night and spoke with a social media director there, hoping that they might look at some of the songs I've produced and whether they might play it at the rally or not. But I just want to highlight two songs very briefly. One is called Taco Dance. And the reason for that is one of the Chicago leads of Indivisible has an inflatable chicken Trump statue. And he does TACO hand sign. So it's taking off YMCO. So I went to Suno, I asked for prompts saying what prompts would you use for a YMCA song, gave me a series of ideas, put it back in, whatever. and I produced it this morning. Several, but one I did that I liked. It was fantastic, but the noise, the lyrics were too fast in certain sections. So guess what I did? I slowed it down by 3/4. So there's two versions. Now I have a WAV file on this platform where you can hear it at the slow pace. And if you want it to go upbeat, you can push it up to normal speed to compare the two. And I'll let people decide whether they want to have a slow dance or whether they want to have a happy fast dance or not. And there was another song that I produced, which is called Let Equity Ring, Let Freedom Sing. And it was derived from a session that I hosted on Indivisible, where we invited people to share their chants. They came up with over 100 chants. I took the chants, categorized them AI, sorted them, put it in, asked it to write a song, and then I didn't like the song that much, but then I tweaked the song with my twist, and that's how I came up with the title. So with that, I am done, and I will go into listen mode, and I'll share the link with Jerry, and if he wants to share it with the group once the chat is open, you can have a little fun with Taco Dance.
Yeah. So I want to stay on this theme too. First, because I just want to mention that I had watched a commercial and it was like these really tough guys and they put these high pitched voices on, into it. And I actually thought that was a great idea, but I think it's a great idea for some people. Like, I don't think it would be a great idea for, like kids or people that aren't used to, pushing forward. To me, it's about balancing the energy. So that was one thing. To Rick's, because this is part of it, the whole thing with the songs, the second way you used it, I love that because it took from other people and then it used AI to sort of blend and tweak. The first way I'm really uncomfortable about, and this is sort of underlying everything that I think about, I feel if we don't start thinking about a new economy in terms of how we support cultural creatives, we're not going to get anywhere any further than we've ever gotten before. And so for me, it's very important that we start with a human's creative product and then see where we need augmented assistance. And the last thing is a request, and this is towards Mike. But one of the things that I feel is coming up in Muggle's world is this in the big beautiful bill is some legislation over who controls the rights. And again, I'm not so clear on it, which is why I'm making this request. But Marjorie Taylor Greene actually later said, I didn't know this was in the bill. And had she known, she would have voted with Democrats. The point that I'm trying to make is that I don't think most people in Congress understand, nor do I understand, nor do most people understand the things to watch out for in any new legislation. Like, I'm hearing it's a good start, but I'm not hearing what's missing. And I know with this administration, something is missing. And so I guess what I'm asking for is a discussion among a couple of people that really understand cryptocurrency, that have a business mind and the kind of mind that would see where the openings for corruption would be, and that understand AI. So Mike, if you could convene a discussion around, 2 or 3 other experts that the rest of us could hear and see what questions come up for us in a way to bring other people and other minds into the discussion, I think that would be so important, especially right now before everybody starts arguing for what they want when they don't even know what they're talking about. So with that, I'm complete. Thank you.
I absolutely loved meeting with you, Stacy, this over the weekend. Oh my gosh. And maybe we share the document with the group, but inspired by Buckminster Fuller, your idea of triangles that create the dome, a strong foundation of a group. like really cool. I do want to share a visual of the people that have joined who are of the OGM community. And there it is in the chat. Stacy, you and I will be doing the intake tomorrow one-on-one. But there we go. Look, a visualized view, community of OGM. Jerry's has connections. You know, of course, I think there's a couple people who still have to update their profile to make it full. But yeah, you can click on anybody. Everyone stays anonymous until otherwise decided upon. It's a good match. But if you do keyword search, it's interesting. There's no art. There's no music. And we do pull keywords from your resume. So I'd love to like start blossoming that creative connection and see what happens. And if, you know, whatever that word is missing from this community, let's start adding to it. And I'm complete. Thanks.
That was really interesting.
I think that was you, Kevin. Thank you. This is a product of a collaborative. Everyone is a co-owner of this map and the intake process and everything. So I invite you to join us and
Yeah,
co-create.
I did some mapping for the UNDP and the Global Fund and things on malaria. It was pretty interesting. We were going to hold up $40 million from Musveni because he had a gray and black market in malaria nets, and we could show that they were going to his cronies. And he said, "You think I'm going to stop a big deal for 40 million?" And Jeffrey Sachs didn't really understand it. He was a major league corrupt guy, and so being able to hold up a little bitty thing didn't matter at all. It was really interesting. Anyway, I mean, sometimes mapping works. Sometimes he says, you're just bringing a knife. Like I got a shotgun. Musveni's still doing it. So anyway, it's
Wow.
interesting. We did some maps that worked, but that one was we spent a lot on, and we discovered that our leader didn't know what he was talking about.
So, guys,
Yeah.
we're in check-in mode.
Yeah, I'm
And
sorry.
there's
Can I do a
no-
quick check-in?
There's
Then
no conversing in check-in mode. We've just sort of
Yeah.
agreed that until check-in mode is over and everybody's gone once, then you can come up and like learn
Yeah.
all these things and keep going. And Kevin, if you'd like to check in, you are welcome to do so.
Thank you. Okay.
But until everybody's gone once, please no comments back
Yeah.
and forth and no use of the chat.
I believe in the protocol and just got excited as another fellow mapper. So anyway, so we're in Portugal. We've been in Spain. We're going back to Valencia and to Marrakesh, but we're writing a book called "This Shit Works and Why It Matters," and we're working out. This is my wife and myself. The why it matters is on her side, and I'm sort of a how it works kind of thing. But a lot of people have made these really amazing new financial innovations that deliver economic power and assets to folks who hadn't had them before. And we're going in to tell us why you're doing that and how it connects to you. And so it's going to be, we're productizing it because I've handed off the running of the content to younger people, and I'm just going to be going back to being a reporter. And it's pretty fun. You can be really lightweight in a reporter, and all you're doing is working on that story, not trying to make 20 stories fit together on a stage. So I'm pretty happy with it. I think I liked Girona, Spain better than Lisbon, but we're going to check out Valencia too, where Ken is moving. So that's my check-in. Never done a book, and it's kind of fun.
Well, good morning, everybody. So I've handed off a lot of the writing to my pet GPT. And so the OGME part of my report is that relationship. I've got a lot of legacy material that's beyond my capacity to do things with. So I'm starting to pour things in and pull out various kinds of structures. Sometimes it's outlines, sometimes it's drafts, sometimes it's digests. Just intrigued by the process of what well-guided AI can do there. Have not thought about the question of, do I want to publish that or take it and do a full rewrite that's in my voice? But I'm finding it's remarkably close to my voice, given the way that I've trained it, and sometimes even surprises me by asking questions of me that I would have asked. So that's really intriguing. The other part of my playing with what I'm coming to think about as an exoskeleton is using my AI as a medical assistant. So one of the things that happens as you get older is that you're spending a higher percentage of your life dealing with medical stuff. I do my assay of my week. I see nods out there. It's like, it's one thing after another. A specific case in point, I developed some bursitis in my hip 3 or 4 months ago, went into PT, had certain progress and certain not. Progress and backsliding. I gave the diagnostics to the AI and it said, well, you might want to think about these things. You should ask your doctor about this. Would you like me to draft a letter to your doctor? Which I did. And she said, yeah, that sounds exactly right. I'm going to refer you to these kind of tests. The tests disclose things that we had not been thinking of, completely changed the course of the AI, of the PT, because it was stuff the PT folks couldn't have detected. So that's on the technical side. On the more esoteric side, I also added into the mix an osteopath, traditional osteopathic manipulation, which is something that's sort of a cross between, I guess, chiropractic and energy healing. Very subtle hands-on treatment, which has had remarkable effects over the last several weeks. I'm actually mostly pain-free most of the time for the first time in 3 months. So I'm dancing between the edge technology and the old hands-on methods and having a really enriched experience from that. Last thing I'll say on the AI front is that there's been a lot of discussion, including in here, about the energy demand that AI is throwing on us. And I just posted something yesterday that suggests it's far, far less than what people think about, and most importantly, far less in proportion to our other greenhouse gas generating activities. That says maybe the focus should be elsewhere, like on the 100 companies that are responsible for 70% of global emissions, as opposed to what my incremental inquiries might generate. And the last thing I'll say, which is more about mood than about AI, I follow a guy named Peter Zion, who's a geopolitical analyst. Some of you are familiar with him, and I watched his piece yesterday on Israel and Gaza. And there was a line that stood out for me from it, still rippling this morning. He said, there are no good solutions here. And it struck me because we are all, I'll speak for myself, I'm oriented to finding solutions. And I always think that there are good solutions. And the notion that there are problems that may not be solvable in a good way was kind of stunning to me. This may be one of those. So, and to end on a slightly more cheery note, I guess this breaks the protocol, but Stacy, you said, I think you said something like, why isn't anybody digging into this bill? A lot of people are. And so, maybe we can share resources about that, but there's lots of analysis and breakdown of what's going on there. One recommendation I have, and I've been sharing on social, you referred to it as the big, beautiful bill, which is what the Democrats are doing. And it's a great example of being captured by the framing. Republicans and Trump are calling it that for a reason. The Democrats reinforce the framing every time they talk about it. And they could call it the big bad bill or the budget busting bill or any number of other things other than being, surrendering to the framing that the Republicans have built. Reference to George Lakoff, if you're not familiar with his work on the power of framing and political dialogue. And it's a lesson that he's been trying to teach the Dems for 30 some odd years, and they are very slow learners. I'm complete.
There was a lot in that, Gil, so I wanted to have 30 seconds to digest. I look forward, if we have time at the end, to talking a little bit more about how you can keep afloat in the flood of information here in Washington about what Trump is up to and how to figure out what the important stuff is and what the unimportant stuff is. That has been my life for the last 3 months, certainly. And I don't just do US policy, I look around the world. The example that Stacy gave about Marjorie Taylor Greene not realizing that there was a few sentences in the bill that said the states cannot regulate AI for the next 10 years. It's a throwaway line. It's not going to go through the Senate because these types of bills, these are budget bills, and there's a special procedure in the Senate that allows budget bills to be passed with 50% of the votes rather than having 60, which is what's needed to stop a filibuster. Sorry to take us aside, but having a little bit of ADHD, it's best for me to answer things right away. I look forward to learning more about Gil's magic AI medical advisor. I've been dealing with some strange symptoms in the last couple of weeks. Right before Memorial Day, we were coming out of a party and suddenly I had these strange meteors in my eyes, in my right eye. I just for like 10 or 15 seconds, these bright flashes streaking across my eye. And the first thought was, oh my God, I've got a brain tumor or an eye tumor. What the hell's this? And we were supposed to go away to central New Jersey for some bike riding 12 hours later. Luckily, even though it was Saturday on Memorial Day weekend, here in Washington, we have outstanding medical help, and my retina specialist was on call and made a special trip into the office to take a look. He was somewhat reassuring, but really didn't have an answer and certainly didn't have a prescription. He did sort of give me approval to go on my trip. The possibility, one of the possible causes is to have a retinal detachment, or sometimes you don't have the full retina ripping off, you have the surface cover that rips off. And in both cases, you can get some strange visual effects. After meeting with 3 doctors now, it seems like it might just be a ocular migraine. But you've got that, Jerry. I want to talk to you later. That is sort of the explanation of last resort. Certainly much better than brain tumor. But it's when a little bit of the blood supply to particular pieces of the retina fail or is subadequate, and you get these strange effects. But anyway, it speaks to me about how we are lucky to have so many great doctors and have so much material online. And at the same time, there are these symptoms which often we have to live with because we don't know what the solutions are. Segueing from there into some of the amazing medical news that has been coming out this month. I mean, I'm a chronic technology optimist. And just in the last couple of weeks, we've got the UK enabling this new technique for scanning your blood for all sorts of types of cancer. So like 100 times cheaper and more, and looks like it's very effective for certain types of cancer. Another really interesting article just was published on what I'm calling super CRISPR, with CRISPR, you can identify one gene and you can modify it. Here's a technique that might allow people to take cancer genes and change dozens or even hundreds of genes and just completely wipe out the cancer. I mean, it's a breakthrough technology. So I'm continuing to believe that the future is wide open, except I'm a political pessimist and getting more so every day. And that's getting me very frustrated. It's blocking some of the work I want to do. I just sit down and start writing something and think, well, analysis doesn't matter anymore. It's what gets tweeted and how Fox News can lie about it. So I'm kind of depressed about, and I've expressed this before. I do think I'm going to ramp up my work on op-eds and 800 words of powerful ideas, of one powerful idea, to get people to realize we don't have to be in the same track we're on right now. And I really resonated with the point about having clear ways of saying things very carefully. I'm a huge fan of Lakoff. There's another book called Micro Style, The Art of Writing Little. And I often quote Frank Luntz, who was Newt Gingrich's mind control expert. And he's the guy who came up with death tax as a more appealing way of describing the estate tax. And it enabled them to eliminate much of the estate tax because death tax sounds inherently unfair. I rambled a bit, but that's where I am right now. I'm very excited because in 24 hours, I'll be on a plane to Seattle, get to go see my folks. My mom's turning 89, my dad's 92, and boy, we'll probably spend half of our time in an organ recital. Yeah, just talking about all the health issues they have, and they're in the same boat. They don't understand what's going on, and they don't use the internet anymore, and they're in an assisted living facility, so they do have the best care we can hope for. But it's hard to be so far away, and Kathleen will be with me for 2 days. They haven't seen her in 2 years, and I'll be there for four days. So, it'll be a nice visit. But I'm really frustrated that they can't use Zoom anymore. I'm going to try to get my mom to use her cell phone, which she doesn't use anymore, to just do a FaceTime now and then, particularly with my daughter. My daughter just got back from walking the Camino for 10 days. And so she has amazing stories to tell, but it would be so cool for her to tell that to my parents face to face. Long ramble, but thank you for having this opportunity for a catch up and for so many interesting people sharing so many interesting things.
Yeah, so let me take a moment to transition. So I've also been working with AI for quite a while, and Pete actually is the guy who got me into AI. Yeah, and Pete just kicked me up a few notches when he contacted me saying, "Hey, we are developing a platform that may work for you." So that gave me the impetus to advance this idea of developing an AI capacity to support the regenerative agriculture community in general, the regenerative food system community, because it's not just a farmer, it's the entire infrastructure required to move product from the farm to the table. Eric came into the picture, and because I had to write markdown files, are you kidding me? And we went through a number of iterations, and where we currently are is that the technology inside your personal OpenAI account is incredibly advanced. I mean, you can set up an agent, or a GPT, that's called, in your own account that is incredibly powerful. But it's not so easy to transfer that onto a platform, because then the platform itself has developmental issues that will take some engineering time and investment. So we took another route. We have developed a prototype system, and I'm going to show you the website we just finished. My daughter is partnering with me. We're setting up a company. She is a web designer, and we are developing a pitch deck right now. So we're looking for investment and for operating partners to join up with. So, for example, I'm going to work with like the Kiss the Ground organization and others. So I'm really like to focus on the NGOs and the not-for-profit groups that are interested in building up this regenerative movement that has to bypass this really established vertically integrated industrial food system. So right now, we are finishing up. We are developing this pitch deck. We have targeted to go out looking for prototype partners. I mean, people we can prototype this with. And so, Doug, you had offered to take a look at this from a marketing perspective. I would love to get your feedback, and maybe we can get together and you can give me some pointers. I'm now looking at who do we contact, right? So I have a number of ideas, but I'm right now really searching for who are the right partners that have the organizational strength, like the Kiss the Ground organization is one that comes to mind, but then also access to capital and funding. I've tested these agents that we have developed, and they're incredibly powerful. But they come back not just with statements. They give you links to supporting articles. They give you names of people to contact in companies. And I have continued to use the research function on the ChatGPT. I'm working with the 4.1 model, and then with the O3 for specific other search functions to develop. I mean, where this thing goes away for 30 minutes, searching global files and so on. So it's really fascinating. So anyway, I'm quite excited. It's also sort of a is this really going to work kind of moment, you never know until you put yourself out there. But we need to have some money, because if we continue working with U-bots with Pete, I mean, it requires some engineering time and developmental time, and we need to set up an organizational construct that can support all this. So that's the one part. Then the other thing, and I was just thinking of Stacy. I'm just actually working with Grok, the Elon Musk AI, to get an opinion on this bill and the macroeconomic implications of it. I mean, the stupidity of what they are doing with this bill, right? I mean, every dollar that you withdraw from the base of economy, from the base of pyramid economy, is a net hit to the economy, right? You give $1,000 to someone who is on food stamps, and they spend it instantly, right? You give $1,000 to a billionaire, It doesn't even register, right? I mean, it's just a waste. So when you take billions of dollars out of the base of pyramid economy and give it to the top, right? What you're doing is you're starving the economy of turnover, right? I mean, it's the most basic stuff that you would have to consider. So I'm working with Quark, and I said I want to have like a snarky kind of way to look at this, you know. So it actually came up with a pretty good draft. And the interesting thing is, this is Elon Musk's AI, and it criticizes Elon Musk of saying, you know, this guy basically just doesn't work. And so it's fascinating to see how that will play out in influencing the X community, which is drawing from Quark, which I like to work with Quark because as this thing gets smarter and you want it to, it's going to have a huge impact, right? And because of the types of people who are hanging on it, 80% of Quark's users are Republican. Yeah. So it's worthwhile working with it, and it's actually astonishingly logical, right? I mean, it doesn't really show any kind of political bias when you approach it from a strictly, you know, reason perspective. So anyway, so I've been rambling too. So thank you.
Don't know. I stepped in a moment late, so I'm not sure who has and hasn't. Don't want to hold us up. I've been away from the group for a spell. I've been focusing on a kind of a backlog of administrative work that I've needed to do for basically I'm a one-man multinational. And so I've got more corporate entities in more nations than one perhaps really rationally ought, and so that does have its cost in admin. Anyway, so I had to catch up a bit on that front. Much more interestingly, I assure you, is the work that I'm able to return to after having completed that, and that's basically dealing with a backlog of of uh, dialogue transcripts, and I'm mining those using Claude, and doing that to attempt to wrap my arms around the large body of material that I'm trying to convey. And so so I think that approach is going to work pretty well. It'll make the material more plastic. So I'll be in effect writing at the 10,000-foot level. And, I'll be meta writing is my objective once this um, capturing of my knowledge into an AI mind twin has been completed. So that's, has anybody, I'd be interested in hearing from anyone who has done anything similar, i.e. uploaded their corpus and use that to generate targeted or précis material. Or
yeah, hi everybody. First, want to check in with my shirt, B+. It means be positive. It's a charity founded by a father who lost a son to cancer, and it's become an annual 5K walk. And yeah, so there's positive things that can come out of tragedy. I want to thank Klaus and Pete for reaching out to me with the opportunity to help them. Related to what Sean just said, I've experimented with downloading YouTube transcripts and concatenating them So we could talk about that sometime if that's where you're trying to go. And I want to thank Jesse also for creating the Day Balancer platform, taking it in a new direction. I just, filling out my profile, that was an exercise to really reflect on myself and where I see my skills as I'm in a semi-retirement period, making my own way in the world at this time. And I found a YouTube person who talks about Generation X and the challenges unique to Generation X. And yeah, I mean, it's really a dose of reality, and that we all have to face at a certain point in time. Like, and it led me to do some research for the future, like, because I mean, there are questions: will Medicare be around in 10 years when I turn 65? I have to keep that in consideration. That probably it'll probably change a lot by then. But I got to focus just on the present and be mindful in the present moment. So thank you.
Shall I?
Alex, you don't need me. You don't need me to say go ahead. Check-in
All right,
check-in
okay,
protocol
sorry.
is I'm quiet until I check in, and everybody just self-serves. So go right ahead, please.
Thank you. It's interesting that so many, there's very topic today, but AI has cropped up a number of times, and I'm sure we're all living it. But I belong to a group, a meetup group, about 20 of us, and I've been talking about things AI. Now they call them AI. I started when things were like neural nets and then became machine learning. So 2013, 2015, a long time ago. And so they've asked me to give what's new in AI kind of talk next Tuesday. And normally I've never had a problem doing that. Okay, I know plenty of things about things. You guys know more perhaps, but I'm comfortable in my skin or my AI skin. And I started thinking about it, and I thought, for the first time, I have no idea which direction to take this. Every day I see things that I should have done, or I had ideas, someone else has done it. Every day I'm blown away by the new solutions that come out. Literally, you guys are talking Grok and ChatGPT. I'm using tools that are phenomenally powerful. I'm talking about creating systems documentation that I used to create, say, 5 years ago without AI, that would take a whole team 3 or 4 months to create. It'd be there in 10 minutes. Okay, it's similar to if I use the U-bot system, Pete's system, I'm sure I'll be equally staggered. And I have no idea what to tell them. Because, okay, some people will be at the level of, well, we've never used ChatGPT, because as soon as you put AI on the title of the meetup, a whole load more people turn up. And some of them will know nothing. And then a whole load of them produce AI solutions. And it's just literally, I'm sitting back thinking, normally I produce a talk, the content of it, I'll do the presentation a week before, and it's next Tuesday. And I think I probably will walk in and start talking without anything, no slides, nothing. I'm just going to walk in and say, right, these are the things I saw today on AI, because it's so broad, it's so deep, it's so capable that I don't know where to go. Literally, it has really staggered me that at this point, I have no idea. I mean, don't get me wrong. I can pick a topic and start talking about it. But, you know, what does it mean? What is new in AI today? Because it's so many tentacles. And how do you convey it to people, some of who know nothing and some of who know something? And, you know, you don't have a lot of time. You just have 20, 25 minutes to do it all in. It's been an eye opener for me. It's you know, and I don't normally have problem with these sort of things. I just do it. Anyway, just thought that's in my mind. I will find a solution. I will do it. But I was just amused myself that I'm in this situation at the moment.
I'll skip my my check-in today so we can get to discussion faster. Thanks.
I'll have a few things to say. Can I be heard?
Please do. Yeah, that's
Good.
the protocol, is just step in.
So when I read a piece of text, I look for the person behind it. And with AI text, I can't find that person. So as a medium, it leaves me without a sense of direction. Now, the other thing I need to say is a few weeks ago, I posted that I had an incurable disease and it's still creeping up on me. It has the fascinating name of amyloidosis. And it's a disease where bad protein generated by the cells in the bones are sticky and clog up other organs. At 88, I'm totally fine with it. Had a good life, and it continues. So I'm happy, but appalled. So that's my brief check-in.
We'll keep you in our thoughts.
And prayers.
Let's see, is there a better place to be, like in your back pocket?
Well, I can be pretty quick today, actually. I've been preoccupied because I'm in the process of organizing a move from Minnesota to Kansas City, Missouri, to close half the distance between where I now live and where my daughter and her husband live. And they're getting ready to start a family, so I decided I started to do this move. And it's interesting because, of course, I've accumulated a lot of things over many years, most of which I've been able to just put on shelves. You know, I still have, I don't know, something like 50 feet of bookcases that I have to go through and whittle it down to more like 12 or 15 feet of bookcases. But it's fascinating because it's bringing up memorabilia too. You know, there's things that I kept because they were Dick's grandmother's or my grandmother's kind of thing. And it's just an interesting journey, and it makes me wish that I had started the journey intellectually about 5 years ago, in terms of just thinking about what I'm keeping and why I'm keeping it, and having the recollections more regularly. Occasionally I get to something and I go, why on earth did I keep that? You know? And so I just thought I'd throw that in, because my life is kind of disjointed in a constructive, positive way. And the other big perturbation of late has been the air quality in Minnesota, which probably we've all read about because of the Canadian wildfires. So I've been under more or less self-imposed house arrest for several days because the AQ was so high that they were recommending that people stay indoors. And a friend of mine actually got exposed to it because she was driving about 70 miles to return from her mother's, and she didn't know how to turn on the recirculate the interior air of the car. And so she ended up being a little bit uncomfortable. She's okay, but it's just there are these perturbations everywhere of different types. I can't talk politics because I get too mad. It's a crazy time that's happening and very disruptive. So that's kind of a quick update for me.
Judith's comments and Doug's bring up the loss of a friend a few weeks ago, and the fact that Laura, my wife, has decided that she's going to start clearing up. That it's never too early to start getting rid of stuff. She didn't have children, and so we did a huge amount of clearing for her, getting rid of furniture and books and every single yearbook that she had from Stanford, from her college, and so on, and all the way back to junior high. And we couldn't just throw it away. Her brother said, "Just throw it all away." And we're like, "We can't just throw it away." She had been on oxygen, so she had a bunch of oxygen condensers that had become limited in their ability to cope with her needs, and so she just kept them. And so she had like half a dozen of these things that had just no longer been efficient enough, and she had backups, and she had backups of backups and all that kind of stuff just to cope for the last few years. So so we found organizations across the country that would take it. The unfortunate part is it costs more to ship them than it did to buy new ones, but we just couldn't bring ourselves to throw it in the garbage. So yeah, there's a cycle to life, and sometimes it's better to recognize that cycle as early as we can and deal with it as we go. And my business partner is also in hospice, so that's also happening. So and it's a different story there, but that's the stuff that both of you guys bring to mind. So I appreciate that. On the doing side of things, I've been working with Doug Breitbart and others on a number of different projects, one of which is collabs. And we now have, Jerry, you're going to like this. This morning, I've been working on it for weeks, but this morning I coined Neo paper. So I think it's a baby of the Neo book. And I'd like it to be just like we've talked about Neo books, but in the form of a smaller paper. So a Neo white paper, if you will. And that, I think we really need to throw that layering into everything we do, so that it becomes a lot more touchable. So I'm looking forward to continuing that work with folks. Jesse, I'd love to talk to you about it as well, because I think we're barking up the same tree, and figuring out how we can maybe collaborate. That's the gist of the whole thing. And also Serving Life book, which is, Jerry and I had a conversation about that. It's getting a little bit closer, a Neo book. Not as close as I had hoped, as quickly as I had hoped, but nonetheless, I think there's something there for us to share. So looking forward to bringing those to life to the world, and doing so in unique and powerful ways, thanks to what the community has brought to learning about how to do this. So that's it for me.
Two things on my mind right now. The first one is just an order of business for us, which we don't need to discuss right now for reasons that'll be obvious. But when we go into talking mode, should we rethink our check-in protocol? Because minding the chat is a total distraction for me. And the reason for not having chat in the check-in protocol is so that we can be more present. And I'm like not enjoying being list mom and asking people to not use the chat until we've all checked in. And most of you know that Pete and I would probably be the worst offenders of the chat protocol. Like in an instant, we would be all over it. Oh my God, oh my God. And it takes a lot of effort for me to not use the chat. So happy to consider not, motions to rethink our check-in protocol, or to hew to it and to divide up the task of enforcing gently and lightly and lovingly the hey, please, no chat during check-ins. Then separately, I've found myself thinking back often this week on Operation Spider's Web. In case you missed it, Ukraine did a tremendously audacious thing which changes the rules of warfare a lot, not just in this situation against Russia, but in general. If you have large airplanes exposed at airfields any place, and other assets that are not military assets that are not hardened somehow, they are all liable to surprise attack right now. Devastating, where a couple $1,000s worth of equipment can wipe out a couple $1 billion worth of gear that is hard or sometimes impossible to replace. It's a wonderful, wonderful stroke for Ukraine. It's deeply frightening, I think, for everybody all over. And I think it doesn't even come close to some of the scenarios of smarter micro drone swarms that have been written up in science fiction, like Crichton's book Prey and a couple others. There's a future here where incredibly inexpensive but pretty lethal autonomous little things, whether they float on the water, walk like dogs, or fly around on propellers or something else, are just going to be ubiquitous and easy to make. And that has got me a little startled, a little worried. Happy for Ukraine that they pulled it off so elegantly, I think. I marvel that at this stage in the war on Ukraine, nobody's noticing that Ukraine takes out military and supply objectives, and Russia just carpet bombs Ukraine and takes out buildings and kills humans, and how that can't cause a bigger uprising against Putin, I don't understand. Anyway, I don't want to open up that whole can of worms, but rather there's a thing called revolutions in military affairs, RMAs. The stirrup was a revolution in military affairs because it created a stabler platform for horse-mounted archers. And there's, the aircraft carrier was a revolution in military affairs, and certainly these weaponized drones are that, most definitely. And the before and after worlds that each of these revolutions causes are super interesting and always shake up the world. Longbow archers were a novelty. Every one of there's a whole mess of them. When the chat is open, I will post a link to Revolutions in Military Affairs in my brain, where I've got all these things cataloged. Anyway, sorry to take us into warfare, but with that, I'm complete.
Apologies, Jerry, for for offending me, the chat protocol. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I've been waiting. I've been waiting for the civilian shipping infrastructure to be the basis of drone attacks, and it's finally happened. I didn't want to talk about it in public, of course, because one doesn't want to contribute to the triggering of such things. But
That's okay.
but yeah, no, I've been waiting for years for this to happen, and everybody is so vulnerable. Oh my God, it's just ridiculous. And the many to many threat matrix that now exists because this idea has been popularized is absolutely phenomenal. So is the U.S. vulnerable to Yemen? Yes,
Absolutely.
right.
So
It's a
guys,
ridiculous situation. Over.
the other part of the check-in protocol is that we don't reply to anybody. And so once you've checked in once, please go quiet until we've all checked in. And Sean, I didn't know whether you'd been on check-in calls before. I thought you had, so I didn't try to explain it to you in the chat.
I didn't realize that we weren't done.
Oh yeah, we have a bunch of. Raise your hand if you haven't checked in yet. Cool. So thank you, and off to you, Scott, and take your time stepping in.
All right, no time needed. Couple of things. Doug had mentioned that he's having a difficult time figuring out who is responding in the AI chats, and that's disconcerting, and or maybe it makes him feel untethered to it. But I have created an alter ego. So I already had an alter ego a couple years ago that he's the guy who does all the amazing things that I don't have the confidence or the skill to do. And I have started thinking of this chatbot that I've created with all of my resources, and it looks at my site, it knows all the stuff I've written and all that sort of stuff. And so in a sense, I feel like I'm chatting with myself, except by making it an alter ego, it kind of works for me. And so that's my solution to that. Otherwise, I treat it like a Google search in many ways, where I don't need to know the source other than it's a set of responses to my search query. But for the conversational stuff, it's my alter ego, and that's been kind of enjoyable. Judith, you mentioned going through a bunch of stuff, boxes and so forth. Something that I have been inspired to do this last couple of weeks is finding things that I used to like to do, but that I forgot that I used to like to do, which is it's a real surprise and such a delight when you realize, oh, that's right. I used to like to do this and I can do it again. For me, it was, I work at home and I do a bike commute around the local state park. It takes me 15 minutes. And my destination is the same place I left. I leave the house in the morning, I go on my commute, I sit down and I get to work. But I had forgotten that I liked doing that. And my poor little bike was sitting in the garage saying, just patiently waiting for me to do that. So I think that's good enough for me, but that's all.
So my share is a little bit meta, if you'll bear with me. So I've been working the last 10 years to find what working differently looks like, without chronos driving things, without it being in a transactional frame. And when you free co-creating with other people of those two things, it really opens up all sorts of opportunities to discover ways to relate to the normal protuberances by and between people, that happen in the soft human stuff.
Yeah.
And how to, instead of relating to those as a disruption, how to relate to those as value adds and gifts to the whole, and honor them, and then process them in a way so that the whole becomes stronger through it. And so the fruits of the experiment are actually being born now. And I don't, it's not in every, but like I've got a good basket of 4, collaborative circles, partnerships and the like, where we come together and the creative experience is pure flow. It hasn't felt like work yet, which creates this tickle in the back of my head that's like, are we quote accomplishing anything, doing anything? But lo and behold, we are. Like the results, the outputs of any given meeting are robust around big things like designing a logo, or developing a purpose statement for giving birth to a new collaboration. And out of that, it gives me hope that, humans can do humans better. And we are capable, like we actually are capable of transcending ourselves. And with that, I'm complete.
Well, Judy, I can join you in the downsizing. My wife and I are planning to move to Spain later this year, depending upon how quickly the bureaucracy responds. We went to Valencia last month and had a wonderful time, although 3 days there, I thought I sprained my ankle, and I spent 5 days on the sofa. I said, I'm not spending my vacation here, so I taped it up and went out and walked every day, and then got home and it still wasn't healed up. So I got an x-ray and turned out I had broken my ankle. I'm happy to say it's now probably 90% better. The good news is it's a clean break, and the doctor said, you didn't do any damage, but you just delayed the healing, but you didn't do any real damage. And I explained what happened, and this doctor, probably in his 40s, he said, probably would have done the same thing. So that was a nice, it's a guy thing, right? I'm just going to power through. So I'm feeling better about that, but I'm in the process of going through the entire house, and there's a big neighborhood yard sale coming up in 2 weeks. So going through the garage and opening boxes that I haven't looked in years, and taking things out that go back to, my whole life. And it's simultaneously incredibly liberating and incredibly poignant, to go through these old files and say, this was such a great project. This would be an amazing case study. I'm not going to do it. Bye. So it's been really emotional. I just find myself, there's so much instability in the world right now, and I find my emotional base is also pretty, labile there. I'm not overwhelmed. I'm just like, wow, and leaving after all these years. I've been in the Bay Area now for almost, we moved here in 1990, so almost 35 years. And saying goodbye to friends and places I love, and it's the last big adventure. I'm probably never going to move again after this, or have a big move. I might go to a different apartment or something, but it's just really, you know, like it's getting real now. We've been talking about it for 3 years and now it's really becoming real. And it's very interesting to just watch my process around this. So that's what's going on for me.
Thanks, Jen. I think that completes our round. Has everybody gone? We're good? Okay, good. I'll pass to you, Stacy, in just a second. I just wanted to say that in the theme of going through our belongings and all that, I've had a whole bunch of stuff that's really just personally meaningful to me. And I've been trying to not sell them. I've been trying to gift them to people who I think will love them and use them. That's what really works for me. And one example is this chess set that we bought in Lima, Peru, and it's the Incas versus the Spaniards. And it's very beautiful. I no longer have it because we found friends in Seattle whose kid was heavily into chess, and they have a bigger house. And this was always like on the coffee table, you know, when I grew up, except we don't have that kind of room or that kind of coffee table or whatever else. And I was very sad, but pieces are exquisite. They're really beautiful. There's a funny backstory, which is we ended up renting a house from the woman who owned the store where my mom had bought this chess set a year or two earlier. So there's even more ties to it. But I also took, my mom loved scarves, had a really beautiful scarf collection. I took the top of those and just gifted them a month or so ago to one woman who is a family friend of ours. And she was like, oh my God, these are like extraordinary. So things like that just make me happy. And I had too many things that were bumping along behind me as I bubbled around the world. And now I'm same sort of thing. The best thing you can do for your kids and anybody else who's going to take care of you after you die is clean up your stuff and get rid of all the excess stuff like before you kick off. So sobering, but yeah. Stacy, please.
Yeah, I did the same thing as you when I moved out of my marital home, and it actually felt so great. I mean, I had no choice. It was COVID, so I couldn't have my yard sale, but it really felt good. I wanted to respond to your whole chat thing. And first of all, you have my sincere, like I can really empathize with you not wanting to be the monitor in charge. So I'm really one for cultural enforcement. So my first question is, do you really have to monitor it? Because I think that with cultural enforcement, it's up to us in here to sort of set the stage. So I think that for one, I'd want to put, when Gil was speaking, I really wanted to put in a sentence and say, that's not what I said, but I didn't. But had I don't think I would have had a problem if somebody else was doing it, because it's sort of just for the record, just to have it there. But I think that if somebody puts something in the chat, it's for the rest of us to like not respond and respond to it later. And I think in that way, people just learn, oh, that's not how we do things. And I really prefer that, because what I've learned from listening to people like Barry Court, who I really respect, is that rules-based systems lead to chaos. And I have really bought into that, very much so. I think it's up to us to create the environment we want to be in. And Sean, you have my apologies for listening when Jerry was speaking, but I was thinking, look how the universe just threw this at Jerry. He was already feeling uncomfortable having to state the rules, and now somebody is breaking them and he has to bring it up. So sorry about that. I didn't mean it to come out in a negative way. It was just, the universe keeps me entertained. Thank you.
Stacy, thank you. And I'm wholeheartedly with you on social norms over rules and things like that. Love that. And would love to hear how we all, and maybe just my bringing this up dissipates or decentralizes the need for me to be the only list mom doing that. But thank you. I'm totally on board with what you said. Alex, please.
Jerry, just be the boss. We love it. That's
Just
what
crack
we
the whip.
want.
Is that what you're saying? All right. I'll have everybody put like a an electrode on their finger when they sign
That's
into the
right.
chat, and I can
It's
send
coming.
voltage
It's
down.
coming.
Who's we?
Yeah, 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 exactly.
That's right, Ken. Who's we?
Apparently, it's regeneration pollination. Dave wants some authoritarianism.
As,
Go ahead, Alex.
as far as I know, as far as I know, there is no rule as to, it's only being polite if you don't talk for a long time, but there's no rule to say don't talk for a long time. So whilst there's no rule, I will make a couple of points. And I discovered this new thing called a notebook in the last couple of Zooms. So when when someone says something and a thought comes up, I actually write it down. So other times I used to do it and I never used to have anything to say.
That's staggering.
It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll go to Mike first. Last time I went for an eye test, there's Mike. Mike, you're down there. Last time I went for an eye test, one of the first questions they asked me was, do you see lightning? And the words you used was what they asked me. Of course, I don't. Sorry, there's no of course, I just don't. But the reason was because of, if you get high pressure in the eye, it's glaucoma. That's one of the symptoms of that. I presume you've been to enough doctors and they know what they've done. But it was interesting when you said it, straight away, my last eye test popped in my mind, because they do this blowy thing that tests the pressure of your eyeball. I don't know if you've experienced this, but anyway. Stacy, your white paper, your legislation, got a couple of experiences. I actually met a person, I may have said this before, but I apologize, I'll say it quickly. I met a person, I was contracting then, she was contracting in another company, and she said she was taken up by Accenture or something to be farmed out to the British government of the time. We're talking about 2005, 6 at the time. And her work was to do a paper, it's called a white paper, on computing, IT. They wanted some IT legislation. And she spent 6 or 7 weeks doing this paper. And the next thing she knows, it's been submitted as a formal white paper. Nobody checked it. Literally nobody had double checked it in her company, Accenture, or outside. She was horrified because she said, quite frankly, I didn't know what I was doing. I just did the best I could with the team sheet. So in big legislation, I wouldn't be surprised if nobody knows what's in it. And more to the point, there's plenty of not good things in it. It may even be not intentional, but I just don't think people do the scrutiny that's needed. AI, I was hoping would help with this, but kind of you don't know what it misses and what it doesn't miss and whatever. So the other thing I want to mention is maybe it's the latest trend in the last 10, 12 years in UK politics and Europe, is they've changed the way they make legislation. So in the old days, they would try and specify exactly what they mean with the legislation. So it's a crime legislation. This is a crime. Doing this is a crime. They've changed now, and all the legislation that comes out, it says this kind of thing is a crime, and anything else that the Minister of Justice or Finance or whatever adds to the list of crimes. So it doesn't go through the Senate at all. I personally think that is appalling. But literally every legislation piece that goes through is phrased like that these days. And I know for a fact in Greece, things have happened like that. And in Greece, ministers have banned things that should not be banned. They've said, if you say this, which is against the government in the news, it's illegal to say it. It's now illegal. It never went through parliament. The minister of, I don't know, press or whatever it was, or she was, it was a woman, made it. I just think that is appalling. But over this side of the pond, we have not been able to fight it. Maybe with the US's, I know it doesn't feel like it to you guys that you've got a better constitution and whatever, but believe me, you do. Maybe you'll be able to fight it. I thought Klaus, brilliant. Klaus, Markdown is brilliant. I've started using it since AI. Did you know, you probably guys know that when you're doing AI work and you're chunking your stuff, if you use, instead of just plain text, if you use Markdown, the AI works better. You can actually search more granularly with it than if you just put straight text. It actually works quite nicely. So things like section headings and things like that, page numbers of stuff. Sean, there's something called, you can ask Gil. Is Gil around? Yeah, yeah, Gil's there. We did, I think, what you wanted about 2 years ago with a Gil bot. Gil, do you know that one? So maybe you can share the link. Gil can share the link. And I loved Scott's bike commute because I've done no exercise for the last 6 years. Well, 3-4 years since COVID. But that bike commute is a brilliant idea. I'll start it now. That's it.
Thanks, Alex.
Nothing.
Thanks, Alex. Briefly for Mike about ocular migraines. I was not seeing flashes. I was seeing this aura thing, which I call the predator incident, which is in the movie Predator with Schwarzenegger. When they see the predator in the jungle, it looks like a little pixelated, like a semicircle. And that's what I was seeing in my field of view. And it didn't matter which eye I covered, which means I think that it was nervous, not ocular. It wasn't in the eye, it was in the visual perceptive system. So I went to the Kaiser ophthalmologist. And he said, it's probably this ocular migraine. I was not, even though it's called a migraine, many people don't have any headache with it. I had no headache whatsoever. It was just this little visual thing. And I've learned 2 things. It goes away if I nap for 20 minutes consistently, which is great. And if I cut down on caffeine, it doesn't show up as often. So I drink decaf coffee now, and I drink too many sodas, but we get caffeine-free soda and all that. So I've tried to flush caffeine out of my system, and that helps. Anyway, back to our regularly scheduled program, which is already in progress.
I have the same experience as you, Jerry. I have the same experience as you with that. It starts as a dime and goes bigger or whatever. Takes 20 minutes to go away.
Yep. Thank God for that.
Thank you very much. This has been much cheaper than the visit to the and I'm on a waiting list for the neuro-ophthalmologist.
Oh, wow. Okay.
One of the most apparently impossible to get an appointment with, but I given what I know now, I'm probably okay. But I did learn a lot about the wiring of the eyes and how the optical nerves cross and go to different parts of the brain, and there's sort of built-in redundancy there. But thank you, that's very reassuring. I do not drink coffee. I'm naturally caffeinated, but I do make coffee for my wife every morning, and as a result, I do some quality control. Maybe I should even stop doing that. I have a lot of responses to a lot of things, but I see that there are 2 other people who want to talk. So I'm just going to throw a few things out about what Alex just said about legislation and about what Stacy proposed. We do have a huge problem with how legislation is being drafted. When I first came to Washington in 1988, we had craftsmen who had been writing laws for 30 years. And what happened was the word processor. When they started writing, you had to think very hard about what you wanted to say. You had to make sure that each sentence was unambiguous. You weren't going to write 17 different versions in 2 weeks because you couldn't. You had to, a lot of this was still being done on typewriters when they started the craft. And so they had this real art that they had perfected, and they would ask questions like, does section 203 contradict section 207? And they would actually think about how this bill would actually become law. What we have now, particularly in Brussels, is what I call Rorschach text, not test, text. And they actually write text that is designed to be read 3 radically different ways by 3 different parties. And that's the only way they can get consensus from the hundreds of people involved in the process. And the result is just a total disaster. And the Europeans are finally realizing this. If you haven't heard about the Draghi report, Draghi, I really urge you to read it. It's by the former head of the European Bank, former Prime Minister of Italy, he's a technocrat. And while he was in charge, the Italian economy was growing 4 to 5% a year. For some reason, politics. He was kicked out, but he's written this report on how Europe can become more innovative, and it's getting a lot of serious thought, particularly in Paris and in Germany. But we have to find a way around this. I mean, and everything's going the wrong way. I mean, there's this trend in Washington to have your press secretary write your legislation, because you're not going to actually pass the legislation. You're just going to make a press release and lots of tweets and lots of speeches about it. You don't have to think about implementation. You just have to have a nice goal and a good bumper sticker and a good buzzword. And it's the competition for eyeballs is what it's all about. Anyway, long rant. Only other thought is about Jerry's protocol on chat, no chat. I think there's a compromise here. If we could train ourselves so that we only added footnotes to the chat. And this is incredibly valuable when you do it, Jerry. Those of us who want to ignore the chat, just keep the chat closed. But at least 3 times during this section, this session, including my own comments, I wanted to put a little footnote about a book I mentioned, or just make sure people know how to spell Draghi. That kind of thing is, and if we're posting little bits of knowledge rather than asking a question or arguing with somebody, I don't think the chat would be distracting at all. And it would also help those of us who have to sometimes leave early and not be able to throw out a comment that we think would enrich the conversation. Anyway, look forward to talking about many of these topics many more times.
Thanks, Mike. I'm tempted to say, good Draghi, good Draghi. I tried the, hey, if the chat is distracting to you, just close it, a gambit during our negotiations about the protocol, and lost that battle back when. But I'm eager to come back into this conversation soon, except we only have a couple minutes left here, and Pete and Gil would like to talk, and I'm hoping Ken has a poem for us.
And Judy.
Oh, that's right. Judy has her hand up too. I didn't see it. It's being covered by a dialogue box.
I like Stacy and Mike's suggestions about the chat. I think what we've observed before is that we get rowdy, we forget ourselves, we get excited, and chat inevitably becomes a third or a second conversation nexus. So then you have to play, I'm listening to the call and I'm listening to the chat. And it's inevitable when we start. Community regulation hasn't worked. I think rules about what kinds of chat we could post wouldn't work. I think people get excited and they start going. So, I have another proposal. I have another proposal. Right now we have topic calls and check-in calls. I wonder if we want a third kind of call, which is a discussion call, where it's kind of a free-for-all, a kind of call where we often end up. And it's interesting having watched this call, because we had check-ins take up most of the time, and then we've left enough room basically to do real quick, like one-offs. Ocular migraines, yes, I have them. The coolest one I had was where I was blind in my focal vision. So I was watching a TV thing and there was a strip of text and I could see it in one eye, I could not see it in the other. I freaked out and I'm going, okay, I'm gonna have a brain aneurysm, whatever. Doctor's like, dude, it's just ocular migraines. They don't hurt. I also started getting regular migraines at the same time, very infrequently, but they're really bad when they happen. If you're only using OpenAI, ChatGPT, please try Claude, at least for some things. Claude has got a different tenor and it's smarter in a lot of ways, smarter and more thoughtful in a lot of ways. There's this thing called Misty.app, MSTY.app, which is a multi-client separately from ChatGPT versus OpenAI. Misty.app is really cool. It presents a front end, kind of like ChatGPT or Claude, but you can give it API keys for whatever services you want, and you can load local LLMs, and it all works together and all kind of works the same. And it does knowledge stacks, they call them. So you can load up, I've got the Lionsburg Wiki loaded up, the whole 2 million words, and now I can chat with the Lionsburg Wiki through Misty. And you can do it all for free if you want to stay off the API calls, or you can do it for cheap if you want to add in the API calls. It's got this cool split screen thing where you can do multiple conversations at the same time with different models. It's easy to use. You should try it if you're using AI at all. And I've got a bunch of other things I wish I had time to talk about, but I don't. Thanks.
Thanks, Pete. Gil, you're muted.
Yeah, Judy first.
Judy.
It's not that critical. I was just thinking that what I have resorted to doing is I started with Post-it notes because I grew up with them in the company. And I just, every time I have a thought while I'm doing something else, I put it on a Post-it note. That turns out to be really hard to mine later. But something that is linear that we can each do and then contribute that outside the time we're talking for further discussion in the future, I think is a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Judy. Gil?
Yeah, let's have a call where we just talk about OGM process rather than try to stack it out to other ones. Because there's a bunch of questions that come up here that deserve some thoughtful reflection. Pete, thank you for the Misty tip. I was not aware of that. My challenge, I've got a whole lot of training invested in OpenAI right now. So I'll kind of have to start over, I guess, with a lot of it for Claude, but so be it. I'll explore that. Stacy, apologies if I misunderstood you way back at the beginning of the call. I appreciate what you said about resisting this stuff. If people haven't seen it, something like 96% of the court cases have gone against Trump and the administration so far. Josh Hawley presented a big chart in a hearing in the last couple of days showing that there's way more court cases against Trump than any other president in recent history. Unfair, and the witness said, well, actually, that's because he's doing more illegal things than any other president in recent history. So there's that. It's really struck me that I'm paying Congress people to do legislation. I think they really should read the bills before they vote on them, and they don't anymore. That hasn't happened for ages. 2,000-page bills voted on in the middle of the night. It's really hard to read, but that should be a basic requirement. That the AIs can't help us with necessarily, but Mike, to your point about the expert law writers who could spot the inconsistencies in a bill, that's actually something AIs could do for us quite well, or pretty well, depending on how they're trained. But voting on bills that are not being read leads to the question of, well, who's actually in charge here? Who's actually determining? Huh?
Gil, it is an active, mean strategy to put bills in at the last minute so that the other side doesn't have enough time ever to read the bills, and that's been happening a bunch.
Or in this case, even your own side. So who is deciding what to put in? Is who's running the show at this point. And then Mike, longer conversation, Mike, about docs. I'd be happy to talk with you offline about how I trained my AI to be a pretty good medical assistant. And on that note, Jerry, to your point, you said, thanks for the advice. We are not doctors. Don't go by what we say here necessarily.
We don't even play one on TV.
We don't. So that's actually one of the challenges with working with these as assistants is, do you know enough to know when you're being hornswoggled and when you're getting good advice?
Thank you all. I think we're at Ken plus poem time.
I'm going to take a David White poem and modify it.
All right.
This is not the age of information. This is not the age of information. Forget the news and the radio and the blurred screen. Forget Claude and ChatGPT and Grok. This is the time of loaves and fishes. People are hungry, and one kind word is bread for 1,000.
Lovely. Thank you.
It's a poem called Loaves and Fishes. I added in the part about forget ChatGPT and Claude and Grok. That was my
that's really nice. Really nice. And you'll post that to the OGM list?
I will.
Thank you. Thank you all. Good idea, Gil, to have a call about process. We've done a few of those before. I think it might be time for us to talk about that. So I'll put that in our little queue. And
once a year, once a quarter. I don't know, some infrequency.
Agreed. And on the OGM list, or send me an email or whatever, I'm always open to topic ideas from everybody. So send me those as well. But thanks, guys.
Thank you, Jerry.
See ya.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks all.
Have a great day.